All right. Hi. I'm so glad to see all my friends here. Thank you so, so much. It's so lovely to have the support. I'm Paula Cudio. I'm the Director of Event, Experience, and Community Marketing in AR/VR at Facebook. And I'm also a proud co-founder, along with Lauren Burmaster, of AR/VR for Good at Facebook. And this is my 6th Connect. So if you can say that, we'll buy you a drink later. We all know that VR has the potential to transform education, improve productivity, support cultural movements, and really broaden our way of thinking. AR/VR for Good at Facebook has proven that out, really, by supporting content creators as well as partners who believe that VR has the capacity to change the world. But we've only done that in partnership with the like-minded and vibrant community of developers and creators, nonprofits, and visionaries that are in this room and in this building today. So first, I really wanted to thank everyone for kind of coming on the creative journey with us. It's been, if you saw the keynote, an amazing ride so far, and we have a long, long way to go. Last year on this stage, we honored another VR for Good piece of content, Authentically Us. Authentically Us was a 360 series of documentaries with transgender people at the center of the narrative, created by Fourth Studios out of New York and in partnership with the Pride Foundation. Some of you saw Shannon Scott on the stage share her really, really passionate story and her commitment to supporting her communities, transgender service people and veterans in the armed forces at a time when they're feeling less supported and some of their rights are really under attack. This year on the show floor, you'll see The Key, another piece of content created by Oculus, AR/VR for Good, and Creators Lab. Really proud to have it here. The Key, if you haven't seen it, is in the concourse level, and it's a fully immersive experience that involves a pretty poignant narrative around life choices. Very moving, very emotional, and worth an exploration. It's an award-winning piece of content that just won some awards both at Tribeca and at the Venice Film Festival, so I recommend you try that too. And then today, I'm hugely honored to talk about a program that is really birthed from an extraordinary collaboration with a variety of creators that have really showcased the creative potential of VR. And it is highlighting one of the most important causes that we have, and that is those folks that are battling cancer. That program is called the Made for St. Jude Hall of Heroes, and we are really delighted to have the co-creators with us today. I wanted to showcase a quick video.
Throughout history, the words bravery and battle have gone together. And throughout history, we've celebrated that bravery with epic statues. But not all battles are famous. Not all heroes get a statue. And some of our most inspiring stories of bravery go untold.
I hear people say, I wish it'd been me and not my child. And I honestly don't know if I could have gone through what he went through twice. He is one of the bravest, most courageous people I've ever met.
I think about the medicine that my child has had, and it is more than the majority of people take in a lifetime. She just amazes me every day with how strong she is. She's my hero. Sorry.
With Luke, he's just, he's special. He never knew fear through cancer treatment. He was always happy-go-lucky. He has a spirit that thrives in him, and he's just an amazing kid.
Now, with virtual reality, it's finally possible to celebrate these stories of bravery in the epic form they deserve. We take brave patients who've won their battle with cancer and team them up with talented 3D artists. Together, they create an epic statue, a superhero 60 feet tall that uses animation and sound to share the patient's story and symbolize their courage.
Making lightning is my superpower. Lasers? Speed, really fast speed.
We'll bring these statues together into one awesome virtual hall where visitors can wander among the statues, be inspired, leave a message, and donate on Facebook.
Thank you. Please welcome me in joining the superheroes that have worked on this. Taylor Williams, VP Executive Producer at Flight School. Aren't you not
I
VP?
appreciate that. No,
Well,
I'll
it's
take it.
after this one that
Well, executive
Lindbergh
producer,
said-
that's great.
Yeah, all right,
Yeah, love it. Thank you.
Crystal Ricks, who's the Global Chief Marketing Officer at BBDO New York. Thank you for coming, Crystal. And my personal hero, Lou Griffith, who's the lead UI VR experience executive at St. Jude, made for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So thanks you guys for coming. So this is kind of a big idea. Taylor, do you want to just give the pitch on it?
Give the pitch on it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So this program started several months ago, and there were 4 different agencies that we were working up with to come up with 4 different concepts. And ultimately, this was the concept that was chosen to move forward. And the idea is all of these patients have all of these incredible stories, and they are so inspiring, and they are so heroic. And the idea with this experience is to create a virtual space that's unlike any place that you can go to physically, that encapsulates those stories and celebrates them. And in a lot of ways is the St. Jude in VR. It's the way that you find these stories and tell them and show them off, and provide a place for people to connect with those stories.
Mm-hmm. And this was a hack, really, so kind of a blue sky opportunity. Why was it interesting for BBDO to participate?
I mean, as a creative agency, we work with many great brands. Unfortunately, the brands that we're working with right now don't actually embrace VR to the extent that we are ready to do creatively. Mm-hmm. And that's obvious from a marketing objective perspective. It's because we're still waiting on scale. So as this emerging creative canvas became available, the opportunity to experiment and really merge this wonderful ability with the charity and what we do from a marketing perspective, it seemed as though it was a one-in-a-lifetime chance.
Were the people that worked on the pitch pretty excited about the opportunity? Because it was, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, when you work on big businesses every day, the idea of applying your trade to something really important with so much meaning, people were beating down the door.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. Lou, you have been with St. Jude for quite a while, and I am dying to know, and you can tell this group of developers too, how did St. Jude get hip to VR?
Well, everybody here probably has a notion of what a hospital is, and even maybe a children's hospital. And it's our job to say that St. Jude is different in many different ways. It's a unique place, and unless you're actually there, you don't really understand. And so what better medium than VR to do it? And so we started collaborating, and our partner in crime, Dan, and I went out and shot the hospital. It was, it worked really well. It was a great little tour that we created, but because of regulations, the spaces had to be empty. So at the end, we got a really great tour of bricks and mortar, and it didn't really have the spirit. And then one day, Dan came running, to my office, and he was just like, "I've got something, you have to see it." He was able to capture a no more chemo party, and for people who don't know what a no more chemo party is, it's when a patient finishes their treatment at St. Jude, we throw a celebration, and it includes confetti, a song. It's a really happy celebration. And he had just put a Insta360 Pro camera in the center of this celebration and walked away. And in a minute and a half of content, we were able to capture the soul of St. Jude, and we love showing it everywhere, and it really moves people, and I don't think of any other medium in the world that can actually provide that.
Yeah, I saw that last year at Connect.
Yeah.
The hand carry. Yeah, it was really, it's one of those things I think at Connect, lots of people want to show you things in a headset, and some things just stop you instantly, and that there's real magic there and real power. You were talking a little bit yesterday about, Lou, about the Go and the Quest and how that's really changed the way you are deploying the content creation and activations. You want to talk a little about that?
Yeah, sure. So it was I believe Connect 4 when I came out for the first time, and that's when the Go was announced. And right then and there, I knew this was the device we needed to go to. So I came back to the team and said we should port what we're doing towards the Go. And I went to Best Buy for $250. I was able to get a device, take it back, plugged it into Unity, and within an hour, I had a prototype of the experience. And once we had that, we started going up the food chain to our leadership team. And once they saw it, they looked at me and said, "Wow, we have magic." So with less than $10,000 budget, we had really captured the soul of St. Jude, and now we're distributing it across the country with all our field development offices. We have well over 150 devices now distributed that have the No More Chemo experience, and hopefully soon we'll have a new tour that will bring life to St. Jude as well.
Cool. And we talked a little bit about, when we were getting together, about the collaboration process, the idea that it's pretty rare that this many institutions and entities get together and can work so cohesively. You guys have spent some time together, both Flight School and St. Jude and BBDO at the hospital itself. Taylor, tell me about an experience there, probably pretty moving.
Yeah, I mean, going out to the hospital is an incredibly transformative experience. I think Limbert and I went out as we were working on these concepts and trying to get a real sense of what the heart and soul of St. Jude is. And it's remarkable how intentional the staff and team at St. Jude are about imbuing that heart and soul into the space. You walk around a hospital and people are smiling. I'm not used to that, right? I don't spend a ton of time at hospitals, but enough to know that it's not a place people are happy. It's not a place that exudes optimism, and that's everything that St. Jude is about. It's light, it's bright, people are happy, people are doing the absolute best work of their lives to help save these patients, and it's remarkable. And our hope is that we can imbue some of that optimism into this project, and that's been a real guiding principle for us.
Cool. One of the pictures I love in this slide is Limbert working with a child. I think that the idea that you could bring in that opportunity to engage someone creatively at a time when they're in treatment is pretty spectacular. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of your favorite characters? I know there's a lot of them. We got some up here.
It's nearly impossible to pick. I mean, I think what was so amazing about the experience is that our team got to meet such generous individuals who desperately just wanted to give back and help in any way. So as we talked to these kids, a few of them stood out, and we're doing our best to commemorate them. I think Quincy, obviously, is one that we're all in love with. And he was fantastic, because you would think after that experience, they'd want to be as far away from the hospital as possible. But Quincy wants to grow up and be a surgeon so that he can help other people. He wants to stay as close to the hospital as possible because he sees it as a valuable place that was life-changing. And we asked all of the kids, obviously, for the concept, well, what superpower would you want? And time again, the superpower they asked for had nothing to do with themselves. They weren't the superpowers that we would ask for, time travel, that sort of thing, something that helped us. It's always something that helped others. And Quincy wanted chemo bombs so that he, within an instant, could cure other people. It was beautiful.
Yeah, that's, it is amazing that, and I think you were saying this, that when you talk about creating stories, and St. Jude is so famous for being able to really embrace the power of storytelling for donation purposes and awareness, and that there really has been a pivot away from telling stories about patients and more about telling stories from the point of view of the parents, because the children are so positive and optimistic, and they don't really think that there's, once you got a chemo bomb, you're cool. It can actually make a huge difference.
Right.
Taylor, do you want to talk through how we actually brought some of these characters to life? I don't know if you've...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, would love to. So this is fun. This is Joel. So, the process that we kind of went through, Lou can get into this in a little more depth, but St. Jude has this incredible patient interaction team, and they do nothing but help manage the interactions when you want to work with a patient to tell a story like this. And so that way we know that there's somebody who knows the patients and knows the situation that they're in, knows where they are in treatment, and can be sensitive to all of that in a way that we as outsiders can't be. We just don't know. So we worked with that team to identify a range of patients across a very diverse group of backgrounds, different nationalities and ages and different stages in their treatment. And this one right here specifically is Joel. Joel is actually, he works for St. Jude now. He was a patient as a kid, met his wife there. One of the things that makes Joel who he is, that he's kind of honed in on, is he's a triathlete. He looked at chemo and coming away from all of this treatment as a kid, and he was like, well, if I can do that, I can do anything, right? So he's off doing these incredible triathlons, and we wanted to capture that in his design. So the way we would approach these designs is Limbert and Martin from BBDO sat down with each of the patients and had a conversation. And it was really important to us that that conversation was natural and that we weren't guiding them in any one specific direction. We asked what they thought about what their superpower might be, but we didn't want to just do an interview and ask, hey, what's your superhero? We wanted to get a sense of what their likes and dislikes were, what their passions were, and really importantly, what their plans for the future were once they've defeated cancer. And we pulled out key elements from that conversation. There were about a dozen for each of the patients, and then worked with designers to take those elements and find the best way to tie them up in this superhero aura. And so with Joel, we've got several elements from him as a triathlete. He's in his biking uniform. He's got his helmet on. He's got this triangle on his chest that's glowing and is a symbol of the triathlon. And then, a thing that you can't avoid with Joel is he's missing an arm. But that doesn't slow him down at all, and he chooses, he doesn't want to wear a prosthetic because that slows him down and it makes him feel like he's not streamlined anymore when he's got it on. So we wanted to represent that arm it's still there, it's still a part of him, but it's this special thing, and it's him as the torchbearer of St. Jude. And so we wanted to find those little elements with all of the different patients to wrap up their story in this physical presence.
And we have talked a lot about how a lot of patients in treatment don't talk about the future. It's really, they are simply living in the moment. So the idea that you ask them what they want to do after this, that there is an after treatment is pretty amazing. Lou what was it, we're going to click another one so people can see another character, but what was it like to show some of these sketches and pieces of artwork back to the patients?
Well, we haven't gotten there yet, which is exciting.
Oh, they haven't seen it?
They haven't seen it. We are actually doing a reveal in 2 weeks. But Joel saw his. I mean, he was kind of like to make sure that we're, because he's usually the advocate for patients so he was able to see it first, and he was blown away. And I can't wait. I mean, honestly, it gives me chills just thinking about what the parents and the patients are going to see, because this is them, and it's all the best qualities of them. So I can't wait. It's going to be great.
I remember thinking when we were picking how many we would do, that, because I have 2 kids, like someone's going to be mad that they didn't get to do superhero, right? So we also, are there any other characters up here that you want to talk about? I know there's so many. I personally love the ninja. I think the ninja.
Yeah, let's see. We've got Quincy with his chemo bombs up here. We've got Matthew and the mayor to the city. All of these stories are so incredible. One of the things, especially looking at this slide, that I think is really important, we wanted the patients, when this experience is done, and they some of them go into the headset, some of them won't be able to, but we wanted them, when they see these designs, to recognize themselves immediately. We didn't want there to be any question of which hero was which person. And so I think that it's pretty cool to look at this and see all of the different stories collected together here,
Yeah.
and see such an incredible range of characters and emotions and capabilities here.
Yeah, it's a pretty beautiful sketch to see, and to see how they could, as characters, interact with each other, and how they may live in this larger world. Do you want to describe the world a little bit? And then,
Yeah, I mean, I think when we took on the project, empathy was a huge part of our goal. We know from a marketing strategy perspective, empathy is much more impactful than sympathy. So focusing on their bravery and focusing on the positivity of these kids was absolutely critical for doing the hardworking job that we need to do of donations for St. Jude. So keeping all of that in mind, VR obviously was the perfect canvas. Because empathy is drawn the closer you can feel, both physically and emotionally, to people. So the world is eventually meant to do exactly that. We don't want it to feel like a frozen mausoleum to these children. We want it to be an open-ended world that is vibrant and growing and living and constantly evolving the way that they are. And over time, we imagine there being more statues and more areas for the user to explore.
yeah, this is the first project that we've worked on that is open-ended, right? That the possibilities are truly endless, which makes it incredibly daunting, and at the same time, super exciting. We were talking also a little bit about the power of the collaboration across the institutions and best practices. I think it's really interesting to know that the constraints of VR, both in terms of reach, are a challenge, also in terms of age and usage is a challenge. But the idea of bringing best practices about VR and now AR to this project is pretty amazing. Is that something that your agency is looking to just tap into a little bit, best practices on VR?
For sure. I mean, as a creative agency, storytelling is what we do.
Right.
But applying it to a new medium requires an immense amount of partnership. And this team has been incredibly helpful, from Flight School to Facebook, to making sure that we're educated and maximizing the technology to the best capable. So much of what we do as an ad agency right now is engineering and creating for very small screens.
Yeah.
And this is the complete opposite. How do we embrace the scale and the open-endedness to really get the most out of VR and to build the best experience? The grand nature of these statues will be inspiring. We want to make sure that we created something that was unique to VR, not something that we could have done with any other medium. And so making sure that we capture a world that feels fantastical and as huge and as brave and as heroic as these kids are.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We always start conversations in exploration of creativity around the why VR question, like why are we doing it in VR? We could do it in another medium. When we saw the pitch when we were in France, and the scale of the statues to the human eye when you're in VR is an incredible example of why VR, right?
Absolutely.
The idea that it truly is a spectacle and that you create this heroism in size and scale is pretty impressive. How do you interact with the statues and the characters in the world, Taylor?
Yeah, that's. I'm glad you're talking about that why VR of it, and especially as it comes to the space design and the layout and the way you interact with the statues. So one of the really important things that we wanted to keep in mind as we were designing the space is we wanted it to be a departure from the physical world that you're in when you put on the headset. We wanted you to put on the headset and be immediately transported to something that felt totally different from the walls that were around you when you put it on. So we have this space that's incredibly expansive and wide open, and these floating islands in the sky that you're on, and these suggestions that there are other islands in the distance that are being built and will be there in the future to house more stories. And once you're in that space, you're invited to step up to the statues. And you've got a couple of different ways to move around, from controls on your wrist to hopping around through the statues to this plinth that you eventually stand on in front of the statue. And the statue is towering up over your head. And as you approach it and you're on this plinth, you can view it from different spaces around the statue that highlight different pieces of the story that go into creating that patient story and that statue. And there's this radio play that kind of plays that around, and you hear the patient's voice and you hear the patient's family's voice explaining what they've been through. And it's incredibly moving to hear that story and that impactful, moving experience while you're in this kind of awe-inspiring place. It really tugs at your heartstrings.
Yeah. Lou, how are you managing the balance between the joy and the challenges of sadness and loss? Because these people are in treatment and may go back in treatment.
Yeah, that's the main job of us is to walk that line. Not every story ends happy, but not every story ends sad. So we want to tell that story uniquely, and thanks to the power of what we're doing with the VR, we're able to tell both of those stories and tell it in a compelling way that not only inspires you, but maybe motivates you to do something else.
Any particular reactions from parents? That were there any parental challenges around not wanting to participate or being really engaged around the technology?
No, in fact, we got a really big reception for it. When we put the call out to our patients, it's very rare that we get more than 3 or 4 patients at a time, just because they're in treatment the whole time they're at St. Jude. So you got to think that they are sick and sometimes just have trouble talking. So to have the quality and 12 patients to come in and talk to us on the same day was. It was kismet. It was amazing that it happened.
Yeah, it is interesting to think that in a time of great physical pain and emotional pain, that they could be completely inspired by engaging with artists and creatives about the possibilities of the technology and careers moving forward and all of those things. I wouldn't be surprised if we planted some seeds, right?
Oh,
exactly.
That'd be awesome.
VR developers.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about what's next for the program? Are you guys going to kick anything off that's exciting? Go along with it?
Yeah, we've got a lot of different things that we're talking about, right? It's all midstream, so a lot of different things are happening. I think one of the things that's really interesting and intriguing from my point of view is the idea that in these statues we have an object that is incredibly portable to different mediums. And so we're talking about different ways that we can use those through augmented reality, through making CNC mill-outs of giant physical statues that we can put up, and then a big launch event where we reveal everything on Giving Tuesday.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things debuted today from a Facebook and cross-marketing perspective that we're actually really excited about, to be able to drive awareness of the program, to allow people to participate even if they haven't had the headset experience. So today was a fun day for us, right, Lou?
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things for me that has been super exciting about working with St. Jude is, will you tell them how many events you do a year?
Oh, man, over 30,000 events.
30,000 events a year.
Yeah.
The idea that you could take a VR experience, and the No More Chemo Party is a minute and a half?
About a minute and a half,
right.
yeah.
So the idea that you could have a variety of pieces of content on that headset and really touch people at every single endeavor. How has the experience been in terms of using Facebook as a vehicle for donations?
Oh, it's been wildly successful. I don't know the exact number, but it's in the 100 millions, if not more.
Wow.
And it was kind of a thing where a happy mistake, I guess. We didn't really know about it, and all of a sudden, just when they launched the program, it just expanded immensely and like wildfire, and we couldn't be more excited about that platform.
Yeah, I think for us, the idea that most of the people in this room really do believe that VR really does change minds, and that it engages empathy on a completely different level. What we really haven't had the opportunity to do yet, because it's so nascent, is measure that. And with this program, I think all of us are going to, we'll lean on you guys for measurement, we'll lean on you guys for development expertise, et cetera, because this could be a great opportunity to prove out the fact that not just awareness, but a call to action and specific donations can be measured, which I think is...
It's a game changer, for sure.
Well, and I think it's a credit to St. Jude. So many marketers are afraid to test and learn.
Yeah.
And so what you're doing on such an amazing scale and an important cause will change the way marketers show up in terms of this very important emerging platform.
Yeah, we couldn't be more excited about venturing out in this, because not every nonprofit has the ability to do what we're doing. And what I appreciate is the team that has put this together in the support of St. Jude. It's been an amazing ride, and I can't wait to see when the patients actually get to experience it, but also when everybody out here can experience it, because I really think it's going to tell St. Jude's story in a whole new way that will really motivate a lot of people.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories about the whole experience is that when we did the hackathon and we all went down to hear the pitches, obviously only one got selected, and that evening we all got together with a variety of the agencies that didn't get selected, and every single agency said, I know we didn't get picked, I know you don't have the money to pay for it, but can we pursue this on our own? So the idea that even the hack itself has created awareness of creatives and what the power of VR is. And now you're also exploring in the AR space as well, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Right now we're doing patient artwork and have it come to life. And so I'm really excited about all the stuff they talked about Spark AR today. Yeah. And so I'm looking forward to diving deep into that and create something very unique too.
Yeah, excellent. Do you guys have any takeaways or anything you want to share with the audience about the program or what's next for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the takeaways is something that we were focusing on a lot right at the beginning of the program. Eric and the Creative Shop team had built this framework around the concept of feel, flow, and fidelity, and how you can use that to approach concepts and putting things together, right? So feel being the emotional connection. You've got to consider that and be intentional with how you're treating emotions and stirring emotions in a project. Fidelity, obviously, image quality has to be high. And image quality can mean different things on different platforms, right? With Quest and a mobile computing platform, you have technological constraints, but you've got to employ a style that really leans into the medium and uses it for the best and for everything it's worth. And then flow is perhaps the lesser intuitive of the 3Fs, that framework, but the idea that everything flows and is natural and is smooth, and is consistent. When you teach something, you use it again and again and again. And it's a lot of concepts that are familiar from game design. But I think it was a really important construct to the way we approached this hack in all of the different concepts. I think this concept with the Hall of Heroes leans in hard on every single one of those.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited to see it playing out.
Yeah, it's really beautiful how it uses the 3D space, it uses scale, it uses the closest, and it really applies all the efficiencies of audio that VR brings to the table too. So that should be really, in terms of moving people around the space. Itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Spatial audio is, and we they have a new prototype of it, and it really is compelling. It really, I mean, it's a game changer for sure.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's been really amazing to us is, as a creative agency, we recognize that VR is going to have a huge impact on the future, but also the world of marketing and media. So this type of collaboration where we're bringing a new set of creative minds together really starts to show the potential and the different ways we can start to use the technology from a branding and an advertising perspective. So I think the ability to collaborate with you all and Facebook has been outstanding, because as storytellers, we're constantly looking for new ways to engage people, and it's been an incredible canvas, but also an incredible learning journey. So.
Yeah. Same here, yeah.
Yeah, and it is, we do have this limitation around reach right now, but the idea of really doubling down on every aspect that Facebook can deliver in terms of reach across, 3D photographs and video and donations and all the other areas that we're going to do. And then on top of that, having this essentially event tour where you're continuing to deliver demos is really the best way to provide the awareness and then really use the VR to drive that message home.
Yeah, absolutely. That idea of an event where you can walk up with a headset and Lou can actually go, here, put this on, see what this looks like.
He's done that to me.
Oh, it's such a great way for people to experience VR. And it's still, a lot of people are experiencing VR for the first time that way. And I'm really excited that there are going to be people in the world that this is going to be their first experience with VR. And I think that, everybody in this program, BBDO and Facebook and St. Jude and everybody who's touched it is thinking about that, and that's an important thing, that the experience has to be incredible. It's got to be true to the St. Jude story, and it's got to be impactful. It's got to move the needle, and that's I'm super excited to see that play out and happen.
I think that's one of the most interesting things about VR. Not only is it people's first VR experience potentially, but it's their first experience with St. Jude in a physical way. And the idea that we can use this technology to transform perception and create empathy in the world for people that are having very unfamiliar and sometimes scary situations. The fact that we're bringing people closer to that and building understanding and empathy is massive. And St. Jude is just the first opportunity to create that societal impact.
And to do it with an injection of joy like this, too.
Yeah.
Like we do work with a lot of nonprofits and foundations, and there is a lot of sadness and there's a lot going on in the world that's difficult. And the idea that you are celebrating the very best of what St. Jude does is pretty amazing. And Lou, you've said too that one of the ways that donations have been super powerful is when people actually go to Memphis and get on campus. And yet at the same time, it's a working research hospital.
Yes.
And so, yes, it's great to have people there, and yes, you're kind of in the way of us doing our best work.
Yeah.
So the idea that you can use VR to allow people to have that experience without getting in the way of the doctors.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite stories is when we were doing the prototype, we went to an expo in Florida, and lady put the headset on, and a minute and a half goes quick, but this lady had the headset on for 20 minutes. We had the video on a loop, and at the end of it, we actually went and tapped her shoulder to make sure everything was okay, because sometimes you're in VR space, it can be a little scary. So we tapped her on the shoulder. It's like, everything okay? She took the headset off and she was in tears. And we're like, is everything, what's going on? She's like, I've been a donor for St. Jude for 15 years, and I've never been to campus, and today I did. And that's when we all stood back and like, wow, we have something here. And we have donors from all across the country, all across the world really, and they don't have the opportunity to come to campus and see what those donations are doing for the kids. And now we have a medium to do it.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to, Hall of Heroes is just going to amplify that.
Yeah, it's going to be a big world for sure. Absolutely. We are going to be over at the speaker pavilion right after this. So if you have any questions, but I would be remiss if I didn't suggest that we all think about St. Jude Children's Hospital and consider a donation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks very much for coming, everyone.
Thank you.